Hi, I'm Greg Hunter, and this is the weekly news wrap-up on USAWatchdog.com for Friday, July 29th, 2011. Debt ceiling impasse. This is a huge story. It is historic. This has never happened before. It has global implications. I mean, people in the Obama administration have used words like Armageddon, chaos, calamity. Bad things going to happen if we miss the deadline on August 2nd. And I think we will. I think we are going to miss the deadline. And the reason why we're going to miss the deadline is because I don't think that the House of Representatives, that's controlled by the Republicans, can produce a bill that'll get through the Senate. And the Senate is controlled by the Democrats. And likewise, I don't think the Senate can produce a bill that'll get through the House. And even if they do get together, hold their nose, and cobble something together that everybody hates, it'll probably be some short-term deal, which Obama has said repeatedly he would veto. We're going to miss the August 2nd deadline, I think. We're not going to default on our Treasury debt. There's enough money coming in to pay it. The big problem is a downgrade, is a credit downgrade. That's the big problem. If they downgrade the credit, that means that interest rates are going to spike. Things will be more expensive for people with credit cards, car loans, mortgages. I think the dollar could get sold off abroad, and that means inflation. Gasoline prices will go up. Probably the stock market will sell off. And it won't be until we really have this calamity situation where maybe gas prices are $5.50, $6, $8, who knows? Maybe the Dow Jones is off 3, 4, 5,000 points, who knows? It won't be until then that they get together and they have a debt ceiling plan, some type of plan. It's going to be bad. I think this is going to be a very long weekend and a very long week next week. In other stories, let's take a look at the new report by Amherst Securities. They came out and said the shadow inventory of homes sitting on banks' books is now 3.35 million units. 3.35 million homes. That's up 67% from just a couple of years ago. It was only 2 million. And get this. The rate of increase of the shadow inventory is happening at a much faster pace than sales. I don't see how home prices are going to go up anytime soon. Beware if you're buying a house. You should be prepared to live in it for a very, very long time. Next story. Last week, it came out that the attorney generals around the country, led by Tom Miller of Iowa, were negotiating a deal with the 5 biggest banks to offer them immunity in return for, not to do that again and being good, and to give us $25 billion in fines, and basically $25 billion in our money back. I immediately put that on the front page of my site, and I put my opinion, negotiating with criminals. Pox on the AGs. It's unbelievable. It's outrageous. Well, not all AGs. This week, Martha Coakley, the Massachusetts Attorney General, said, not so fast. I'm not signing on to that. I've got investigations going. Did you hear that, Attorney General Miller? Investigations? Mr. Miller, why did you even bother going to law school? Shame on you and shame on any attorney general that's not doing a legitimate investigation and prosecuting these people, not negotiating a deal with them so they have immunity. It's unbelievable. Let's just talk about some of the areas where there could be some fraud. In 2004, the FBI documented loan application fraud. These liar loans, saying I make, $100,000 when you make 40, that you have 5 jobs when you have 1, or you don't have any, that your name's John Smith when it's really something else. Loan documentation fraud. On the other end, the foreclosure fraud, according to Alan Grayson, former congressman, who said, hey, they hired foreclosure mills around the country. There's 60 million mortgages in mirrors. There's a big question as to who actually owns your home because of this, because they have no paper, no documentation. They've been complaining at the Register of Deeds offices around the country at an increasing rate that they're not taking any of these documents that have signatures on them that are known to be fraudulent, such as Linda Green, which was signed more than 20 different ways. the name is now synonymous with loan documentation fraud. And by the way, all these mortgage-backed securities, so if they were creating documents so they could repossess the homes, and they were creating these documents and they were signing these signatures and basically recreating things like promissory notes which show ownership. You think you pay for your house over the next 15 or 20 years. No, you don't. When you sign a promissory note, that is a financial instrument like a Federal Reserve note. That's your payment. So if you bundle something up, you have to bundle something of value because it's a mortgage-backed, it's a the paperwork has to be there. It's a security. You have to have value. How did they bundle these securities if they didn't have the paperwork, and now they're reproducing the paperwork in mass in hundreds of thousands, if not millions? Shouldn't there be a significant amount of these securities that don't have any paper backup? And how did the rating companies rate this stuff AAA when they didn't have the paperwork and they're recreating the securities? Remember that? Any attorney general that signed on to this should be fired, voted out of office, tarred and feathered for not looking after the people of their state. Thank goodness for people like Ms. Coakley and the attorney generals in New York and in Delaware are some of the other ones that are doing real investigations. Next up, Moammar Qaddafi. Remember how everybody was saying, he's got to go. He's got to go. Well, now people in Europe, in France, and high-ranking officials in France and in Great Britain are saying, well, maybe he doesn't have to go. What? Maybe he can stay. Huh? We come to find out that the rebels aren't doing very good. These are the same guys that one of the first things they did was they created a central bank. Incidentally, back in 2008 when we were melting down, the Federal Reserve funneled billions of dollars to Libya to bail them out. Yeah. And now we're attacking and bombing them? Well, now it seems that Moammar's doing a lot better than the rebels. He's taken a lot more ground. It's back on top. Also, that his rallies are a lot bigger than the rebels' rallies. It seems he sparked a national fervor, and people are actually supporting him, like him or not. His countrymen, at least a significant portion of them, are supporting him. I hope we don't put boots on the ground in Libya for a lot of reasons, and one of them is we can't afford it. Next up, Federal Reserve. Remember how they told us that it came out that they had $9 trillion off balance sheet and a couple of trillion that they bought these mortgage-backed, these toxic securities? And that was 11 or 12 trillion bucks. No. The Fed itself spent now, according to a new GAO report, $16 trillion to bail out foreign banks, foreign companies, domestic banks, domestic companies. Just the domestic companies got obscene amounts of money. These people who sit atop of these banks and brokerages are incompetent. They should be out of jobs, not getting bonuses. We should have let them go under, and their assets should have gone to competent people. Bank of America got $1.3 trillion, according to the new GAO report, in financial assistance. $1.3 trillion. Morgan Stanley got more than $2 trillion in financial assistance. Citigroup, got $2.5 trillion in financial assistance. And brokerage Merrill Lynch got a little less than $2 trillion in financial assistance. Wouldn't it have been cheaper to let these guys go under and let other companies take their assets? I think so. Which brings me to my last story, gold. For those of you who have been saying gold is in a bubble, please stop. You'll look ridiculous enough. You missed a 5 or 6-fold increase from 300 or 250 the low up until now. It's more than $1,600 an ounce. Real money is never in a bubble. Treasuries, they may be in a bubble. The U.S. dollar, that may be in a bubble too. Not gold, and not silver for that matter. And just to give you an idea of the numbers on this, in 1980, gold was $850 an ounce. And that high stayed with us up until a couple of years ago. So how much of today's money would it take to equal 1980 money of $850? According to John Williams, in order to equal $850 of 1980 money, you'd need more than $8,400 in today's money. We're in a bubble? And for you silver people out there, $50 was the all-time high in 1980, just a little less than 50. Now, we haven't surpassed that 1980 all-time high. How much of today's money would it take to equal $50 in 1980 money? According to Williams, once again, about $450, more than $450 of today's money to equal $50 in 1980 money. That's how much it was for an ounce of silver at its high. We're not in a bubble. We are in the middle of a debt implosion, and they're going to throw lots of dollars at this problem and lots of dollars at our budget before it's through, which means gold and silver have a lot higher to run. That's the way I see it. I'm Greg Hunter. Thank you for supporting USAWatchdog.com.